Now that you are very familiar with the different account titles, the debit and the credit rules, and the general journal, let us now journalize different transactions. Going back to transactions of Kevin Phillips, on March 1,
Hello.
Kevin Phillips, a sole proprietor, started a laundry business by investing $6,000 as the initial capital of the business. So how do you journalize this transaction? First step is to fill the general journal with the date of the transaction. The second step you need is finding the accounts related to this transaction. Since you have learned that this transaction affects both the assets and the equity, that means that an account under the asset and an account under the equity is affected. Now, what are the accounts affected? The account affected is cash under the asset. Why cash? Obviously, this is the investment of Kevin and an additional asset for the business. As for the equity, the affected account is Kevin Phillips' capital. This account is used to increase the capital or the value of the firm squeaky clean. The third step is to know which accounts to be debited or credited. Knowing what accounts to be used is useless if you don't know the normal balances and when to debit and credit the accounts. In this case, the cash account is increased since cash is invested in the business. Knowing that the normal balance of cash is debit, debiting the cash would definitely increase it. And so, we debit cash and put it in our journal, together with the amount of 300,000 pesos on the debit column. As for the Kevin Phillips capital account, its normal balance is credit since it is on the right side of the accounting equation. For this transaction, since the investment increases the capital account, Kevin Phillips' capital is credited and the amount is recorded below the credit column. Wait, I think there is something wrong with the journal. Do you see it?
Oh,
If you do, that's great. It means that you actually learned from the previous discussion. So this is what makes it wrong. The indentation when crediting accounts. Always remember to make an indentation when crediting accounts in a journal. After the accounts have been debited and credited, what is left is to explain the transaction. As I've said earlier, when you understood the transaction, it would be easier to explain it in the journal. In this transaction, since it is the first investment of Kevin, we can place to record the initial investment as an explanation. Remember, just make a brief explanation, not a paragraph. Also, never forget about the indentation. This is what a journal entry looks like.
Wow.
And now, Kevin's first transaction has been journalized. And that is how you do it. Let's move to the second transaction of Kevin. On March 3, Kevin purchased laundry equipment for $5,800. To journalize this transaction, you need the date. By the way, you don't have to repeat the month on this page of the ledger. Placing the day of the same month will just do. Then, debit the laundry equipment account since it was acquired by the business and it costs $5,800, while crediting the cash account for the same amount. We credited cash to decrease the amount of cash invested in the business since it was used to purchase the laundry equipment. The explanation part is quite easy. You can just say, to record the purchase of laundry equipment. With that, journalizing the first two transactions of Kevin is done.
yeah!
If you are still having a hard time understanding how journalizing works, you can still go back to our previous videos and try to understand it better. Let's continue to keep track and journalize Kevin's transaction in our next video.
Yahoo!